let me tell. Oh, it says we're already live, but in the background, this is already preparing still. So hello and welcome to the profiles today. James and I haven't been on here in a little while, so we wanted to come on and fun. And we didn't really realize, or at least I didn't, because I didn't grow up in this country. James and I haven't been on here in a little while, so we wanted to come, and this is what it does when you have it also coming up in the browser. So here we are on a holiday in the US and possibly also in the UK. And also, it doesn't matter because you can watch this anytime and it's supposed to be a resource for you. And if you're watching this later, hashtag I'm watching this after the fact, if you want to type that much. And we have a lot for you today. Some of this you may have already heard, but this is supposed to be your complete resource from our end, from what we know currently about the profiles. So, James is going to get us started, and I'm going to see if I can catch online if we're all good.
All right. So if you've heard me speak a little bit on human design, I tend to be kind of the numbers guy. I like to talk about the statistics, and I know it can drone on a little bit, but I think it gives some good insights into the general overview of what we're talking about, rather than just like, oh, this number's this number, this, and we'll talk about that and have experience and everything, and that's nice. But I don't know, I like to put it into kind of a framework a little bit. So starting out obviously with the basics of, we all have a number, like a profile indicator, which is 2 numbers. I know this is basic, but I like to keep it simple starting out. So then that's going to be the first part of your design when you run your chart. So Alex and I are both 1-3 profiles. So you could be a number of different types. So there's only 6 numbers, right? So 1, 2, 3 are on what you would call the lower trigram. And then 4, 5, 6, which is what's called on the upper trigram. And then you can be a combination of one of those 2 numbers. So you can have a number 1, 3 that they're both on the lower trigram, or you could have a number on the lower trigram and upper trigram, or both on the upper trigram. Personally, I don't care for introverted and extroverted labels all that much, but it does seem to equate to that. I use more of if numbers on the lower trigram are more in like an inward, I think it more of introspective, kind of an inward journey of their purpose and why they're here. Doesn't mean they can't go in the outward landscape, but then the upper trigram is more about, I call it an outward journey or outward trajectory. And then from those 6 numbers, they can only be combined in specific ways into 12 different types of actual profiles with the 2 numbers combined. Does that make sense? What I'm saying?
It does.
So you can't be a 1-2 or a 2-1. You can't be a 5-6 or a 6-5. There's certain combinations that just don't exist when you run a chart.
Imagine a 6-5. That'd be so fun.
Yeah.
Or a 2. Oh, well, anyway, we'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But the 1-3 is the only one that has all the numbers on the lower trigram. So the thing,
right. Yeah.
So the thing about that as a 1-3, and for me, just like a little bit of chat to interrupt the statistics.
That's fine.
I don't know how it's been for you, James, but for me, and as a only child that I've been, and so I've been always feeling very self-centered, but not always in a bad way. I just always felt like naturally the universe revolves around me a little more. And it does revolve around every person, right? Every person for them is the center of their world, and that's how it's supposed to be. Then we care about others, and our cup overflows, and we give and outward. But it's just like the sensation that we have about life and ourselves. For me, it's more always been like also in like spiritual journeys, and when we've had the discussions afterwards, everyone's like, I'm out to save the world, I need to bring this into my community. And for me it was always like, oh, I learned this about me, I learned that about me, and then I was like, is this wrong that I always feel like everything's so much centered around me? But it's like, it's really very much a piece of the 1-3. It's meant to be like, this is how we learn, this is how we process, this is who we are, and it's totally fine that way. Everything's just fine. Have you experienced that too?
Yes, and I've also heard it from other people's experience too, that it's true that the world, in a sense, not in an egotistical kind of way, kind of does revolve around you or what your specific domain is. So I think each profile type has kind of their domain, and that they can feel pressure. People can feel pressure about that. So if you could almost call it the inverse of a 1-3. So the 1-3's domain is more about introspection and exploring and adventures, and less on like the stage of like a 4-6, the role model who's, you know, always, well, I don't want to say always because everybody's different, but they might feel pressured or that to be a certain way. So this is a good, yes, I've experienced that for sure. So I think it can ease the pressure a little bit of, there isn't really any pressure to be a certain way. It's just, or especially that there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of how we're designed, you know?
Exactly.
For sure. So good points. And okay, I'll say something on just the 12 profile combinations. And I never actually thought about that before, that 1-3 is the only one that's on both the lower trigrams. So statistically, depending on which profile you have, you could be 3-6, 4-6, 6-2, 5-2, 6-3, whatever. There's 12 different combinations. Statistically, it's kind of strange, because it's either, if someone else has that same profile as you, you're either in a category of 14% of the whole population or 2%. It alternates.
What do you mean?
What? Huh?
How do you mean?
I'll explain. So 1-3s make up, there's 14% of the population is 1-3s. And then you go to the next combination, which is 1-4. That's only 2% of the people have that profile. And then you go, and then it alternates. And then you go to 2-4, that's 14% of the population. 2-5, you go back to, that's 2% of the population. And then it goes on from there. So 3-5 combination, 14%, 3-6, 2%, and then alternates like that. And then 4-6, 4-1, 5-1, 5-2, 6-2, and 6-3. That's the 12 possibilities you can be in. I just find that kind of interesting to guide the conversation a little bit. So I think now we'll go into more of the specifics on each line, profile line. It could also be called lines. Say I'm a line 1, I'm a profile 1. I think you would say I'm a line 1 and a line 3, and then my profile is 1-3, but because you break them up. And so Alex and I will probably go back and forth between the traditional terminology a little bit, and then with the new updated quantum terminology of, I think it's more so of where we're evolving into, as opposed to, so like there's a traditional name for each type of profile, rather. So there's line 1 is the investigator. This is traditional. And then line 1 for quantum languaging is the resource. Line 2 is the hermit. Some of these terminologies people don't like so much. So that's what's a lot of times why the language is being updated. So the new languaging for the hermit is the responder. Line 3 traditionally is the martyr. New languaging is the explorer. Line 4 is the opportunist, otherwise known as the stabilizer. And then 5 is the heretic, now being called the visionary leader. And then line 6, the role model, now being referred to as the adept, which is like someone with a depth, more like a depth of knowledge. Okay.
Can I, before you hop into the details, can I also add on, like it's the same as in astrology, the same as in human design. We just want to remind you, you all have all of the chart. what you have defined and activated by a certain star, planet, node, or moon has its certain consistent meaning in your life. And that is the same also for the profiles, because the profiles or the lines are attached to your gates. So you will see in your chart on the left down and on the right down, the red numbers and the black numbers, they all have the decimal point. And whatever is behind the gate with a decimal point, those are your lines. So even though James and I, we are 1/3s in our Sun and Earth gates, because that's where this is derived from. You start at the top right gates and look at the decimal points. That's where we have in our black, in our conscious, Sun and Earth, that's where we have our 1 lines. And then on the right side, on the unconscious, red, on the left, I mean, red, unconscious, we have our 3 lines in the top 2 gates. So that's where you know what your main profile is, like your general expression of personality. But also, so when you hear now, oh, 5 is the heretic, the visionary leader, I don't have that, right? It's not like that. So look for the 5s in your chart and know this is why all of the profile lines are so important, because then you can see where in your chart do you have this expression. So we all have all the lines. Maybe there are some charts where there are certain lines that aren't in there. So for example, I have a client who has like 11 2 lines, for example. So that has a certain meaning for her, right? And then I have other clients who have a lot of 5 lines. So they're like meant to be a visionary leader in more areas than another person, right? But usually that's why we want to say it's not like, oh, I don't have this, oh, I have this. It's now you have to pay attention where you have this, so that you can add on to this is not just like, oh, you're a 6/2 and this means that kind of class that we're doing here. This is deeper than that. So you can find like where in your chart you have that. And we all have all of the chart.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you're referring to these numbers right here, right? On the gates. Okay, so
look at our James here. Always
I know what you're talking about. This is why I wanted to start simple, because it's true. You, if you're, we're just using 1/3 as an example is good, but if your profile is 1/3, that just means that those are the predominant lines you have in your overall, when you look at all the astrological components. So yeah, you would have most likely all the other profile lines. So that's a good example of why you do have all the qualities of each profile line. You just have but the one that is ascribed to you as your profile is the ones are the most predominant, right?
Good Here point. We go. Sink us in the chip.
So yeah, so don't feel limited if this is just more of the natural tendency you might have when we talk about these lines. So
can I add something else before you start? You're going to kill me in a moment.
Okay, go ahead.
Just that Ra has mentioned, and we're not like strict followers of Ra, right? Because this is what this whole group is about, that we want to make this work on a level that it's a tool to help you know yourself more. But one of the things that just stuck with me is that Ra mentioned, we are now in a time of 1 line power, right? Where we need to now look at all the 1 lines in our charts to see where we need to build that foundation that James is going to start talking about now. And then for the transfer and the thing that's happening in 2027 with the emotional solar plexus mutation that our teacher Karen has a whole book up on, so I can't go in there because I don't know enough. But for that time, that's what we prepare our 1 lines for now and really dive into them, so that then in 2027 and onward, we're going to use our 6 lines to really shine from then on. That's just something Ra said, so I just wanted to pass this along as a message from the man. And now, I don't know what you say, James, but
sometimes he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, well, keep it in the back of your head.
I respect where the tradition came from sure, for sure. So, and that's a good reminder about and a good lead into the 1 line being the energy or the person who is It's talking about gifts lately. It's not necessarily a gift, it's just a natural ability. This is your natural tendency to be able to, I almost call the one line like the trailblazer, or somebody who can, you could call it creating the foundation, so to speak. Sometimes the 4-line thinks that they create the foundation because they're the stabilizer, but really they're what's built upon the foundation of what the 1-line creates as a foundation of kind of leading the way. That's what the 4-line then comes, and whatever's built upon that foundation is then stabilized. So all the numbers work kind of, there's a symbiotic fashion for how they work together. Nothing sequential, but that's kind of the idea, is that. So, and it's called the investigator or the resource. And I think that the personal quality of how it shows up in our personalities is like, well, I find it's like can be somewhat off-putting to people sometimes if they don't realize that this is your natural tendency, is to like ask a lot of questions and like kind of want to get to the bottom of things. And people, I realize it can come off as kind of like almost invasive to people. Like you're asking all these questions, like, why are you asking me all about my life? Especially with relationships. Like if there's a 1-line in a relationship with somebody who doesn't have a 1-line, they get irritated because they're asking them so many questions. When really it's like, I relate to it almost as like another sense, like the ability, like vision or smell or whatever, like just helps me kind of sense what's going on by asking questions. And I can kind of, especially combined with emotional authority, because everything works and it's like works in hand in hand. It's like, it just gives me a general idea, it's how I get to know people, ask them lots of questions. And then, so that's more of the action. And I'd say more of the purpose of the new languaging of being the resource. It's what you're here to do and contribute, is through that process of investigating and inquiring and being very curious about things, you're able to easily kind of bring resources to your group or your tribe or your family or whatever it is. So that's kind of my take on the 1-line.
Yeah. I mean, and then, 1-lines are just like you said, by nature, we're just very curious, right? And then for me, I got lucky because I got put the 63 in my unconscious sun. So I ask extra many questions. But then I got blessed with the 1333 channel as my only channel, where people feel really safe to tell me things. So it's all good, right? And like James says, every chart like makes sense, right? In that way, the more we look at it, it's like, oh, that's great stuff. But also because, another big piece of the 1-line is introspection. It's not just studying, learning. And even though we really enjoy that too, because we are so curious, we want to know everything, we want to understand everything on a foundational level. And for me, that means, yes, I know my brain has the capacity to go micromolecular, like super tiny and like super scientific, but I don't want to, right? It's okay for me. I'm not a generator. I don't need to be a specialist. I just need to understand things at the foundational level so that I can understand like how things work together. So that's more for me how it works. But it also means that 1-lines are usually really safe. We feel really safe for people because we know that, like, we know what we know, right? Even though the 48 will sometimes make us doubt that, and also the 63, but we know a lot and we have a lot of foundational knowledge. Like if you want to know anything like about a subject, go to a 1-line and ask them, like, right? Especially about subjects that are in their lives. Like I have my chickens in the background. Ask me anything about chicken farming. I had to research that stuff. I can't just like chicken farm a little bit, right? But so that's why 1-lines are then also, but really safe resources for other people to come to, because they understand that we understand things because we have introspected on them or studied them on a foundational level. And really everywhere in your chart where you have that 1-line, that is meant to be where you're supposed to build a foundation by learning and being introspective, or one or the other. But it's also when, like James said, when you're in a relationship with a person, the 1-line wants to understand everything about their partner, right? So it's like really We want to understand who that person is that we're dealing with. Also for clients, right? It's like this drive of wanting to understand about processes, about things, about people, about all the things. And then the high expression, you are deeply knowledgeable. The low expression, you are terrified of the unknown and can miss life experiences because you're too busy questioning them. So it's always good to see everything in your chart as a spectrum too. Like, okay, it's not just the one line, but it's like every gate, every channel, every center, every profile line has a low expression and a high expression. We usually float somewhere in between because we're human, but the goal with human design, and it's, you know, raising our awareness, our mindfulness, our understanding of ourselves, is to come to a place where we can live more and more in the high expressions of all the elements of our chart.
Okay, well said. Before we move on to line 2, I think that if anyone's trying to, because a lot of it is trying to figure out ourselves and then also trying to figure out other people. It's kind of especially as projectors. I think that projectors are almost all like one line. We're just trying to figure out other people. But I think to relate this to the projector design, because there's a strong focus on the other person, it's not necessarily personal. You know what I mean? It's like, even though I want to know all these questions and everything and kind of dig into it, I don't really care. You know?
Like, don't care?
Not as much as it seems.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm relating this more to like anyone who is in relationship or knows a one line that do not really take their questions too personally, because they're just trying to get their bearings. So I ultimately don't really care as much as it might seem like I do. It's just a general.
We just want to know what's going on so we can feel safe.
Well, yes, ultimately, true. All right, moving on to line 2. So I really love line 2s because I think that this new term of responder is more appropriate, because they have so much, especially projector 2 lines have so much wisdom, because that's kind of the nature of being more on the lower trigram. It's interpersonal, introspective, so has that quality. And again, it's kind of like you have to call them out and for them to give them something to respond to. Otherwise, it's almost like a projector design as well. They know a lot. They don't necessarily care about sharing it with the world. They kind of like to keep to themselves. At the same time, they love people so much and they want to share and talk about their wisdom and everything. So it's a really good combination of someone who just kind of keeps to themselves. They know a lot. They're really sweet. But then when you really talk to them, it's like they open up. It's just this profound things that they have to share and contribute to the world. And and as a 3 line, I feel like calling out kind of can't have a negative connotation. It's not like calling people out on their BS or anything like that, but more just like calling them to follow their passions or to do what they love. Or as a 3 line myself, I am always called to adventure in some capacity, you know? So I like to call them out to go on an adventure with me in some way.
Yeah, my partner is a 6 too, so I call him out a lot on adventures.
Yeah, 6-2s are pretty cool because it's the largest spectrum you can have from the lower trigram to the upper trigram. So I always wonder about that. Like, what
about a 5-1? Same distance, no?
Same distance, but it's debatable as far as the 2 line is purely introspective on its own, would rather be left alone for the most part. But then you're also the role model and you're, on the highest part of the upper trigram. So I always like to hear about that contrast,
Totally.
Like, which one is it? Do you want us to?
That's super cool. And I can totally relate to that, having that 2 line so close in my life. And it's also, it can be painful a little bit depending on what type you are, right? And for me, and a lot, like I said, one of my clients has 11 2 lines in her chart. But other people too with the 2 lines, like wherever we for my own 2 lines in my chart, those are all, so there's some kind of projection space for the 2 and the 5. They both have this projection space, so that means they act a little more like a mirror. But that also means for the 2 line especially, and for all the 2 lines in my chart, I don't want to talk about other people in a bad way, but it's just the fact that the gates, the qualities that we have in our chart as a 2 line, we're a little more blind to. It's like huge blind spots. But those are also the areas, and 2 lines in general are really, really good at seeing into other people. They like see other people in a way that, I mean, as a projector, we are so good at that anyways, right? And then add a 2 line on top of that, you're like extra super good at seeing into the other person. But then understanding that, you know, there are huge blind spots that that you carry in those areas, or if you have the 2 line in one of your sun, or you know, your sun and earth in somewhere in your incarnation cross. So it's something, it's also qualities that you're not aware of yourself so much. So if you look at them in your chart, you'll be like, I don't know if I have that, right? But then other people are like, of course you do. You're totally like that. And that's something, again, like James said, like the calling you out. It's like something that other people really see in you, and then they call you out for, but you're like, no, nah, I don't have that, right? But that's because it's a huge blind spot, because it's a 2 line. I've surprised so many people with this. They're like, oh my God, like, how'd you know this? It's like, it's not me, it's your 2 line. But the high expression of the 2 line being, you wait to be called out into the right experiences, and you take time to renew and to regenerate. So that's very important. That's why it's called the hermit, you know, honor your alone time, right? That's like extra important, especially also as a projector, since a lot of us are so open to like have alone time to generate it down. Basically, again, I just lie flat on my back and just let the energy for like 15 minutes. And I'm basically always like new. Mm-hmm. And then the low expression of the hermit, you hide out and miss out the joy of life, right? So if you don't get called out, like, or if you refuse to accept invitations that are going to take you on an adventure.
Or you call yourself out.
Yeah, call yourself out. But then, you know, you can easily just become that ever hermiting hermit responder and not respond. So that's the 2 line for you. Super much magic. And if you're watching this, let us know what your profile is and how you relate to what you've so far heard. Because I see we have a bunch of people here, and we'd love to hear from you. Like, what is your experience with all this?
2 lines probably a superpower for projectors, because it almost makes you recharge.
Recharge and the power to see into other people extra strong.
I don't need that. But yeah, good point. It's another simple, practical point about, I mean, there's so much advice out there of people saying, try this, do that, whatever. A lot of it just comes down to energy management. And just laying down, getting your feet off the ground, makes a world of difference sometimes. I'm not exactly sure why of all the reasons, but it just kind of, it gets you out of particular energy fields, and it's a way to just kind of be back in your own energy space.
Yeah.
Especially if you're laying on the ground.
And a lot of that comes back to, sorry?
Oh, I said it's even better if you're on the ground outside.
Oh yeah.
Just lay on the earth. That makes most problems go away temporarily, at least, and then they come back.
Temporarily, but a lot of this comes also back to allowing. And I know a lot of us projectors have lived in generator mode for so long, and we don't, you know, we feel like we shouldn't be, you know, whatever, deserving of rest, and we have to keep going. I had to learn over years, and I still do. Like just yesterday, I was like, I'm just going to allow myself to sit on my bed and read for a little bit. It's freaking Sunday. Why do I have to like run around the house and do things all day long, right? I can enjoy sitting in my pretty spaces once in a while. But it comes back to allowing.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but I can work while I'm laying down and resting and doing nothing.
That's not doing nothing.
Like, that's what I mean. It's like I consider that work time. Like I lay down and I just close my eyes and like visualizing it, it doesn't seem like it's work, but it makes me more efficient. You know, like I can kind of visualize my day and how it's going to go. And it doesn't ever go that way, but you know.
I do. Yeah, I know what you mean now. I do that too. And a lot of our projector work is energetics and organization, I feel like. So, yeah.
Yeah, working from within.
3-line.
3-line. So 3-line traditionally is the martyr, and new languaging is the explorer. I think that you've been using the term higher expression. I like that, in that I think the 3-line is naturally the explorer and just wants to go on adventures. And the lower expression would probably be a martyr, because I mean, I've experienced this multiple times in my life, that based on being, especially 1-line, so you're curious, and then you want to explore certain things and see it from all different possible angles. So you're just kind of exploring the territory of whatever it is. And then when it's out of alignment, so to speak, or a lower expression, there's this tendency to not want it to be that way, so to speak, or wanting it to be differently. And then that gets coined as being the martyr of, I see how this could be different because I've explored it from all different possible angles. Therefore, I'm going to martyr it. And that is just when you kind of get way out of, of how things are supposed to be. But that's the general idea. It's like adventure, exploration. I'm not quite sure. I'm still in the lower trigram, so it's not quite sure as far as like purpose. I mean, I try to trace it back to purpose, because that's a lot of what is talked about on this page here. But I think it's so, so it's like, this is very much trial and error. So people who like to experiment, and it can seem like they're messing up all the time, constantly, but it's really just a way of, it looks that way from the outside sometimes, but it's not a mistake is kind of the phrase. Like, even though you messed up, it's like, that wasn't wrong. I just learned a different way to do it. And so then the power of that is to then be able to share all of your quote unquote failed experiments of what didn't work. So you can bring that to people and say, I've tried this already and it didn't work for me. And so here's a different way you can try it.
Yeah.
Exploring.
And that's also why the 3s are, once they learn from their so-called failures, then, and because we experiment and try everything out on ourselves first, like literally guinea pig style, then we can be incredible leaders. And everything that we do is a part of our learning. So like we said, there's no mistakes. It's just like another way of not doing things if it didn't work out. Mm-hmm. And then around 40, like naturally, usually the experimentation slows down a bit and it gets a little more like sophisticated into the ways of, okay, like what am I trying to get to in life, and which experiments do I need to run for that? Not just like, yay, I'm down for everything, which is how I used to be. It's like, okay, any adventure, I'm sure I can learn something, sign me up, But then also another fun fact, for relationships, it's really hard sometimes for 3-lines to know what they truly want, because there are so many potential possible experiences and alternate realities to explore, right? And it's like, okay, could I be good with this like for the rest of my life? Well, what does that mean? But so there's a lot of, and I had that a lot in my youth too, like falling in love at first sight, because we imagine like the cool experiences and adventures and life we could have with a person. And then as soon as you like see who they really are, especially since we're projectors, like all right, never mind, never mind. See you later. But it's really okay to take it slowly. And also 3 lines need a lot of space in relationships for experimentation, for finding out what is right for us or not. And I found that a lot too in my current relationship with my 6-2 generator, how I feel that. And he thankfully understands the, the concept of freedom and happiness. And so he does give me a lot of understanding and freedom in that way. And it's like, of course, I've wanted to blame him for so many of these things not going right, but it comes back down to, we all got to do our own inner work. But the 3 is like, it takes time. Sometimes I've heard of couples where, 1 or 2 person is a 3 line and they don't know after 20 years if they still want to get married or not. It's like they just keep going and experimenting, but it's like, I still don't know if I want to sign up for this, like with a marriage certificate.
That's a good point, that each one of these kind of has a maturity to it as life goes on, and you figure out that that's what you're up to. You go, oh, I see that I always have this inclination to be this way. I have this tendency to want to explore. So the knowledge of knowing that about yourself and having that tendency is that you start to work with it hopefully a little bit better. You know, go, well, I'm always going to kind of be this way, but I can communicate it better. And I don't necessarily have to, even though it is a process of allowing it, it doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be acted on all the time. Yeah.
It takes the pressure away a little bit, right? It's like, okay, I see that that's happening within me. That's cool, right? Okay, I can still know that most of my soul wants to be in this relationship or not, but it's like just seeing this, like, oh, this is what's going on. And Ruby here, she's a 3-6. So my daughter is a 3-6 projector too. She says, oh my God, yes, I felt so confused. I can hear. And you with a 3-6, it's going to be double. We're going to tell you, go into that in a little bit.
And that's
sorry?
That's 2% of the population, so not a lot of reference points for what that experience is like.
Yeah, so we'll love to hear from you more about that too. And Ruby, you asked a question too. We're going to get to that later because, yeah, we're going to keep going on the lines now, and then we're going to go look. If you guys have any questions, type them now, and then we can answer them in the end.
Okay, you want to move up to upper trigram?
Hold on. High expression, you are wise about life based on your own experiences and experiments. Low expressions, you're afraid to try new things because you're resisting the trial and error connected with them.
Yeah, it's kind of ironic about not wanting to try new things. I get that.
Okay. Move to 4. I'll close the window because my asthma chicken is out here.
All right, so we're going to transition not fully to the upper trigram because the 4 line is the line that you could say bridges the gap between the lower and the upper trigram. I call them the bridge. And because it's like they're the opportunist, that's the traditional term, but new term is the stabilizer. So it's the ability to really kind of traverse both spectrums of the lower and upper trigram as almost like this mediator, so to speak. And because it's the 4 line, it is on the upper trigram. So 4, 5, 6 are upper trigram. It's transpersonal. So it's more about learning through outer environment and relationships. Not that the lower trigram isn't, but this is more on the outer trajectory, like I said. So I think the key thing I like to point out with the 4 line being the stabilizer, which I started out in the beginning saying how there's the relationship between all the numbers is that we all kind of need each other to have different pieces of the puzzle. So with the 1 line being kind of the foundation of the whole lower and upper trigram, the 4 line can look to the 1 line as far as what foundation is being created, because the 4 line being the stabilizer doesn't necessarily like to take a step forward unless they know they have stable ground. and then when they're able to step in onto stable ground and be more in their element, then they can become more of the, how are you calling them? Oh, that's 5-line, never mind. But step into more of that role of creating stability. But that's equally part of laying the foundation, but this is more about community and connection. So it's stabilizing community and connection is how I see it primarily.
Totally. And my business partner is a 2-4, and one of my other best friends is a 4-6. So yeah, I see that very much in my business partner too. I go with the flow a lot more, and like, I'll just channel what needs to come through. I mean, knowing that I have my foundations from my 1-line, but she likes to be very much prepared, and it's just like a different feeling of, what is happening inside, right? And James, no, go ahead.
Oh, just that they work really well together because they can kind of see what the other person is doing. Because I personally, I like to have stability when I move forward, but it's not necessarily necessary, like we'll figure this out.
Exactly. We got some notes somewhere.
Yeah.
But also, 4-lines are really good friends usually as well. They care so deeply about their relationships, about their network, about their community, about their family, extended family. They're just really all about they're like very heart-centered, kind, loving beings, usually the ones I know at least. But also the best opportunities for 4-lines also come from the network. So you don't always need to go look so far out or do run Facebook ads, start within your community and because networking is so natural to a 4-line, that's where all the opportunities come in too. And like James said, they love to move from one foundation to another, and they like to be well prepared. So also about letting things go, like a new job. I don't know if you said that because I was looking at some notes, but 4-lines usually before they like to quit anything or let something go, they want to know, you said that in the beginning, I remember now. They want to know what the next step is. They need that new thing lined up, some kind of security.
Yeah.
You did. All right. High expression, you are consistent, stable, and a good friend. Low expression, you are afraid to speak your truth and to fix things. You simply create an alternative and then move on, sometimes without dealing with the challenges.
Right.
And that's not just the 4 profiles, that's everyone for us where we have a 4-line in the chart. Look where you do this.
Yep, for sure. Okay.
5-line?
5 lines?
I know we have a 5-line here, Melanie. Whoop, whoop. I don't know, is there any other 5-lines here? Let us know in the comments, loves. You're a little quiet right now. Is it because it's Monday?
Holiday. Everyone's taking it easy.
Oh.
Okay, so I think the updated term for the 5-line is probably the most appropriate. Nobody wants to be called a heretic, right? So when you read Ra's language, you go, I'm a heretic or I'm a martyr, I think those are similar roles of what a martyr and a heretic have kind of played in the socio-political landscape. I'm not going to go into that. Of just needing to kind of shift things up to be different. And naturally, a person who goes counter to popular belief systems and is kind of challenging the status quo, because they can also see how things should be done differently, because a big part of their role is how to kind of universalize. It says that the 5-line universalizes the whole chart and can kind of see the through thread and the commonalities that we all have. So they would be the primary proponents for how we always say that we all have all the chart, so they can see that in everybody, which makes them natural leaders. And so their updated term is being the visionary leader. Out of expression, people could see that as like you're trying to break the old ways of doing things and be a heretic and all that. So that's why it gets called that. But really, the natural ability is to be the visionary leader and to see what kind of brings us all together, regardless of all of our differences.
That's beautiful.
And teaching, sharing, and ultimately bringing highest potential of what's possible. So if you're a 5-line projector and you're looking for purpose, or you don't think you have purpose, that's not true, because there's just endless purpose there.
Endless. And the way you do that is just by running around and being a mirror and having others project their stuff onto you, basically. It's energetic. You just, and a lot of people, you know, have already, like, when they hear they're a 5-line and then they're like, oh, other people project stuff onto you without you maybe having done anything. They're like, oh yeah, that happens to me a lot. But it also makes it really hard for other people to see who you really are. And that's like, so when it comes to being a 5-line, there's like definitely a lot of inner work that has to be done. With all the projection field, the mirroring, you know, the getting blamed for things, or people like telling you you are things. And I know there's a couple people here, at least one, who we talked about this in our program in the Gateway this week, in the Q&A, because we have so many 5-lines in there. And we were talking about, it went really deep, and it was really beautiful conversation about being projected onto what other people want them to be as well. And maybe as far as, you know, maybe as far as like chronic illnesses even, right? Because when other people project onto a 5-line, like, and then maybe there's an open G or something involved, or just a lot of general openness, there's just a lot of space for projection to land. And that turns into conditioning. And if it gets accepted, depending on who that person is in our lives and how strong of an influence they have over us, that can be a really strong thing for a 5 to overcome. But it's not like a place of victimization. It's like, oh, now I'm a 5-line, I'm so, you know, I'm so poor because this happens to me, especially when I'm so open. It's more like, oh my God, that's a great thing to learn and overcome, so that you can become that visionary leader. Because without, you know, stepping out of victimization and having, you know, external circumstances to blame for things, we cannot really be that visionary leader and, you know, that healing energy that you are, or that I am as well in the 5 lines in my chart. You know, I carry those, James, we all do, right? We all get projected up on us in certain ways, and we all have that energetic ability to be that mirror to people and have them heal with just like when they project upon us. There was this beautiful saying, you know, Kristen, she always says this, when people show you who they truly are. I forgot how she said that, but it's like, yeah, when people project upon you, they show you who they truly are, but it's not like a place of judgment then. It's like, oh, and then my 1-line gets really happy because my 1-line understands, oh, that's what's happening with this person. But it's meant to like make our sense of compassion and understanding bigger, because then as a 5-line especially, you can see where they're at, what they're dealing with, and you can hold that space for them and just be who you are, who you need to be, while they're reflecting and projecting upon you, and you're mirroring them in their opinion, but it gives them that wall that they can't break through, so that they can go through that level of healing that they need to go through. But for a 5-line, that's why, long story short, that's why a lot of that inner work is so necessary, so that you can stand strong and not be confused when that happens, and then lead people in that visionary way.
Yeah, I'm thinking of some of the 5 lines that I know in my life. And I mean, you can't say that really one line is better than the other, for sure. I think there's this tendency to want to go, oh, I wish that I had that ability. So good constant reminder that we all have that ability. But I think that seems to be the case for 5 lines that I know or I've worked with, is like karmic mirror is an accurate term, I think. So it's not necessarily that they're the only people that have things projected onto them, because we all do. But the specific skill that the 5 line is able to bring, as you've pointed out very well, is to discern of what it actually is. And majority of the time, it's not yours, it's the other person's. And they're just reflecting it back, so you can see them. So you can see them for who they are. And yeah, it's a cool dynamic, because you have to, in order to be a leader, you need to separate who the other person is versus who I am, to have some space and distance from that. So
yeah,
yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. And like James said, it's not about like who's better or who's worse, right? It's like we all can be visionary leaders, right? But I'm super happy with my 1-3 profile. I love it. You know, it feels great. And I also am super happy about the areas in my chart where I have the 5 line, because I'm proud that I've had to learn that. And now I can be a leader in those areas too, and lead and serve others in those areas, especially where I have the 5 lines. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty neat. High expression, the capacity to influence large amounts of people and empower them. Seduction is your life theme, and you can be a great salesperson in many ways. Low expression, use your charm for personal gain and sometimes hurt others. You can be a master of hiding because of the projections of others, no one knowing who you really are. And that's sometimes also why 5 lines play their cards close to the chest, as they say. Like they don't, I feel like I'm always like open book, heart on my sleeve. I feel like for 5 lines, that's probably a little harder because of that projection that they felt a lot during their life.
Yeah, sounds rough.
Okay. I'm sure it's a beautiful life.
Yeah, good job, 5 lines. Keep at it. We're all following you in some way. Okay, you'll move on to last one, number 6.
6 line.
Okay, so we've been talking about leadership. So this is a kind of a different nuanced form of leadership when you think of a role model being a 6 line. Because role model and leader, are you necessarily a leader in the traditional sense? Can be, for sure. But role model is more of like, I'd say it's like embodiment, so to speak, because I think it's more about leading by example and being the demonstration just by naturally who you are. And that's why it's the only one that has like a specific phase to it astrologically, like it's called triphasic. So the first 30 years of life is a certain way, and then your next phase of life is this way and this way, and we'll go into that. But it's more about, it's more about leading by example and embodying what it is your message is based on who you are, as opposed to leadership is more interactive of I'm leading people rather than leading by example. So it's similar but different. So role model is the traditional term, and the new terminology is the adept. And and that's just somebody who, what would be the phrase, like practices what they preach, Yeah. And so, all right, I'll recap the 3 phases briefly. So 0 to 30, and Alex, if you know the astrological relationship for what they mean, I know that it kind of goes in these phases, and I think it has something to do with your first, after there's like a phase transition of after your first Saturn return. It's not exactly at 30 years old, but it's around that time. But 0 years old to 30, the 6 line acts similar to the 3 line in that it's a lot of trial and error and exploration and getting into things. So the first 30 years of a 6 line can be pretty intense. And then and then obviously Saturn return can have its own challenges. And then you transition into what's called and you might have heard this term before, like on the roof. They'll say, oh, I'm a 6 line, I'm on the roof. So around 30 years of age, it's more of like integration, like integrating all the experiences from the earlier parts of life, and this kind of like integrating, and it's a preparatory like 20 years until the age of 50. So that's the second phase of the triphasic model. And so it's acquiring more wisdom and depth to then step into, and you're always a role model throughout, of course, but the idea is that around is there a second Saturn return or Chiron return or whatever that is?
Well, 28 times 2.
Is what?
That's when your second Saturn return is, because Saturn takes 28 years.
Oh, okay. Well, whenever that happens, then that's the third.
No, wait. Yeah.
Doesn't matter. So the third phase of the 6 lines life is that off the roof?
Yeah, it's off the roof.
Back down off the roof around age 50. And then supposedly that's like you're really in your natural element of being the true adept and role model.
And here's where this can come in a little weird for a lot of, and I know we have some 6 lines watching, so let us know how that's been for you, that you've learned, you know, about like, oh, the first phase is like you're basically a 3 line, lots of experimentation. The second thing is like, then you prioritize your healing, right? And like James said, astrologically, this is, you know, after your first Saturn return, like, okay, now in life, like the personal development industry is taking off. Like, I don't think it's ever has before. Like in our programs, we do a lot of like deconditioning that is about things even that we're not even aware of. But even if we do no like personal work, like consciously or preemptively, life always gives us, you know, a chance to learn, to grow, to heal. That's oftentimes why, you know, in so many cultures, the elders have, you know, have the wisdom because they have lived so much. They have learned how to adapt, and they have learned their lessons. So these numbers are also like, and then at around 28 with the Saturn return, when Saturn comes back, circles around, you know, then, you know, you're automatically, you know, faced by the Saturn challenges, your great teacher. Chiron also has a return. That's, I think, around more like the age of 43, when they say you turn into maturity a little more. It's where I'm supposed to be right now. So mature, but it's not always about that, right? It's like, and then a lot of people who have the 6 line, they hear about this second phase of being on the roof and they're like, oh my God, and now I can't be a role model for another 20 years. Like, it's not that at all, right? And what James says, you like 6 lines get born, like the kids who are 6 lines, they say wise things. You're like, what did you just say? Like, it's like, you are already wise. Like, you are already, like, my partner is a lot younger than me, and he is going to be 31 in August, and he's a 6'2". He's a role model in so many areas of life already. Like, people look up to him in so many ways. He's lived so hard, you know. He's just like, but and Barack Obama, whether you like him or not, he was president during the on the roof phase. It's not like you can't do anything, you can't be a leader in that time. But now you look at Barack and what he's doing. He's running a podcast with Bruce Springsteen. Like, he's like doing what he wants, you know. It's more like that phase of where you envision more like Buddha sitting on a pillow, you know, and people like come to you for your wisdom. It's not, you can basically, you can do what you want, and you can already lead and be a role model way earlier. And also it depends on the areas of your life, like which areas of your life are more challenging, which areas of your life did you already like master a little earlier in life, so that there you're already more of an embodied leader / role model / Buddha. in other areas, you might still like go like, oh, this is so hard, you know, and then it takes a little while longer. It's for all of us the same thing. We all have 6 lines in our profile as well.
Good point. Good point about the 6-2 profile specifically. I find that comes up a lot. The dilemma of, well, I want to just kind of be alone and be in my own element. So how am I also supposed to be a role model? But a Buddha type analogy, I think, is great. It's like you don't necessarily have to be like out on the stage to be a role model, that with people coming to you for your wisdom or looking up to you, rather. It's just kind of, they'll do it whether you want them to or not. So
right. Yeah. So high expression, you are a role model who inspires others. Low expression, getting stuck in your aloofness and struggle to get out into the world, especially since so many 6 lines are also 2 lines. I feel like the 6-2 I see a lot. But I also know a lot of 4 6s and very few 3 6s. But
6-2 in the 14% category. So 14%, 6-2, and you can be 5-2, 2-5, or 2-4. Yeah.
So should we answer a couple of questions first, or do you want to talk about the combinations? I know we're like running a little.
If I started to go into combinations, there would be no end to it, because
let's just say this much. Forever what combination you are, there's most likely going to be a conundrum, or how do you call them again, James? This is James' like favorite subject.
Right, it is. So I think if you can call it a conundrum because it appears to be that way, but conundrum has a connotation of being a problem. You know, like, oh, this is a conundrum. It just appears that way at first. But so, I mean, I'll ultimately call it a paradox. It's something that seems opposite, but it really is trying to show you more of your truth by showing you 2 parallel sides. So call it what you want, but maybe a conundrum.
Paradox, that was the word I was looking for. It's a good word.
Paradox, yeah.
So you put those 2 numbers together that you have, and it may feel a little bit like, how can I be a 2 line if I'm also a 4 line, right? How can I be a 1 and like to study inside and like be introspective, and then also be the 3 line and want to really have adventure, party, and all the things, right? So it's not, you know, every person has all the chart. We all need times of rest. We all need times of like community. We all need a little bit of adventure. It's just like, where is it in your chart and how strong is it for you? But acknowledging more inside of you too, that you have all these sides. And I want you to go look at your charts and see, like, where are your 1 lines, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6s, and then what does that mean for you? Maybe count them. Maybe see, like, you know, what do you lean more toward? Definitely look at what your main profile is, the one, you know, that shows up when you pull your chart. Are you 6-2? Are you 1-3? Are you 4-6? Are you 5-2? You know, whatever it is. What does it mean for you? And how do you allow yourself to be both, right? How do you allow yourself to be introvert and extrovert, right? Or inward and outward? How do you allow yourself to be all of these conundrums that humans are, you know? And if you dive deeper into your chart too, you will see, like, there are things in there that completely contradict each other, and that is totally fine. None of us, and especially then it comes into other areas of your chart where you like, are your centers, you know, how do you call that again, when the centers are different blots, or if you're like one?
The splits.
Splits. See, sometimes the easiest words. If you have more splits, then you might feel like even more perceived conundrums or, you know, stuff inside of you. But that's just the nature of being human. And the more you can allow yourself to feel all that, to be all that, to allow all these different aspects of you to be you and to be true, then you can actually feel more whole, which is the fun thing about it.
Yeah, that's the idea.
So we had a couple questions, so let's just look at them real quick. And then I know we've already had you here for over an hour, you beautiful listeners. Thank you for spending this hour with us. We just wanted to make this as profound for you as possible, so you get the best idea of what we know. And just so you know, James and I are both human design specialists, and we have studied with Karen Curry Parker, but we've also, because we're one lines, especially looked at a lot of the traditional stuff. We just decided not to study that route. But
I did about 10 years ago, so I'm pretty well versed in traditional language. So I've studied with the International Human Design School, so I can.
I didn't realize that about you. That's cool. Just another thing you keep hidden.
Yes, the one line is also the chameleon.
Super chameleon.
Yeah.
It's fun because I always find myself very chameleon-y or octopus energy, like I can change, like shapeshiftery, but it's also I only have 2 centers defined, so that extra comes in, right?
That makes it that much more powerful.
Super octopus.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Ruby is asking, any advice when in between moving into the 6 energy? I am what is called on the roof. I think right now, been such a struggle, especially with finance and finding what it is I should be doing even. Do you have wise words of wisdom for Ruby?
What's the question specifically? Because I got the premise of it, that and to relate it to the profile somewhat.
It's like when people are asking for advice and she's saying it's not sure even what she should be doing. It's like more of an exploration into who you are, especially since you're a 3-6 and like being on the roof, being so much more about embodiment of like learning how to embody like the lessons that you've learned, all of what you know, the things that you already like theoretically know you should be doing maybe, and should I say very carefully, but you know that you that are good for you and you're not doing them yet. How can you embody them more? I feel like that's a big piece of what this on the roof phase is about. Finance, there is so much to financial success. Like my business partner and Annalena have run whole 5-day workshops on it. So when we do one again, maybe sign up for one of those. We also recommend always deconditioning, because the more of the energies that aren't yours you are going to shed, the more you're going to find who you really are, and naturally going to live more of your chart. And then you can find more of what you're doing by finding, basically following your strategy, and authority will get you there.
That was going to be my one input since we got onto the traditional route, because that's why I like sometimes, because all of what you said is just, it's so poignant, to get some actual guidance and okay, the what do I do component of this. But solely from a human design perspective, that it can be a broad amorphous kind of question of like, well, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing, and I feel like at the heart of that a lot of times is wanting to know, like, how do I figure that out myself? Not necessarily like, there's all kinds of resources you can go to Alex's workshops, which are wonderful and all that. But the internal like onboard GPS navigation system, the magnetic monopole in the heart, all that's really needed from a personal individual perspective of how to figure out where to go through life's complexities, it always comes back to strategy and authority. And it can get kind of annoying to hear that all the time, but that's what I feel like the beautiful simplicity of human design is like, because then that's what's going to whatever your strategy and authority is. So it's waiting to be recognized, waiting for the invitation, but then responding to the invitation appropriately through your authority. You don't have to go towards everything you get invited towards. And then that allowing that to be your home base or your foundation of, then I decide to sign up for this workshop or pursue this opportunity or whatever it is, but always coming back home to strategy and authority to kind of help to guide yourself.
Yeah, perfect. And keeping in mind always that decisions made out of fear are usually not the right decisions.
Yeah, because that's loosely out of authority.
Yeah.
You're some pressure to make some decision, so that's usually going to be out of fear, as opposed to you have clarity, which is like not opposite of fear.
Exactly. Thanks. That was beautiful. Anything else?
I've been playing with this idea of non-clarity when you're not clear in your decision, beginning to act more as if it were clarity. Kind of the paradox is that being more aware and confident of the fact that I'm not clear right now.
Yeah.
And that is like you're clear about that. And you're only really acting and taking steps when you go, okay, I have clarity now. But if you don't have clarity, it's like you can't force it.
Don't do anything.
Yeah. Just wait for clarity.
That's what my gate 3, my gate 5, and my gate 64 have all taught me. It's like gate 3 is like this. Chaos is a natural thing that happens everywhere in life. And before there's order, there's chaos. And then chaos naturally organizes itself into order. But you need patience, which is the 5, right? And you need to find the rhythms and the habits and go do what you need to do in order to, go be more aligned. You have to have these rhythms and these habits and these patterns in line. And then the 64 oftentimes too is like this big idea, like something's about to come through, but you don't know what it is and you want to force it so bad, but you got to wait until it drops. So for me, like those gates have taught me a lot about that process of not being clear. But I'm also blessed with a defined G. So that makes it a little easier sometimes. But we all have our lessons, and I've had other huge challenges.
Yeah, for sure. That's a good place to look to when the question is about direction and what do I do, is in the G center. Mm-hmm. So whether or not you have if neither one's good or bad per se, but with a defined G center, it's a little bit more of a set path. So whatever gates you have, those can be themes on where your path is leading you. Mm-hmm. Versus you got an undefined G center, it's a little more flexible, Yeah. That's something to look at for that question is what's the gate or the orientation of the G or the self center.
Yeah. I think it landed with Ruby. She says, brilliant. Thank you guys. Great advice.
That's enough.
Yay. Yay. And then we have one more. And after this, I'm going to take my kids to the beach. So let's do it. Michelle is asking, hi, I'm a 4/6. I'm new to this whole human design world. So this video has been great. Thanks for doing it. If you have time, can you explain more the difference between when the profile number is first and when the profile number is second?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you can riff on that.
Yeah, I got a good answer for that, but you want to answer it?
Nope, you can go first.
Okay, so there is significance to which number comes first or second. And because everything, it's, okay, so it's not necessarily, what do you call it? It's not obvious that it would be this way, but so much of life is kind of backwards, if you've noticed. Mm-hmm. That as far as the orientation of which number is first or second, you actually want to focus on the second number first, because that's is it the conscious or unconscious line? I don't remember.
The unconscious, the red one.
You want to focus on the second number, which is the unconscious number, because things that are unconscious, that is all geared more towards life purpose, or I almost think of it in terms of like your bottom dollar, or like just biological, what your body, I'm not going to phrase it the right way, but
it's a lot, I think, genetic, ancestral, life story.
Yes, but also like paying the bills and very just pragmatic life stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that falls more into the second number of what's unconscious life things versus conscious is like your soul and all that category. So the second number, that one, I depersonalize them sometimes because they kind of have a life of their own. So the second number, it wants to be kind of met first, or what was the profile? 4/6. So all the themes that we've been talking about the 6, it's like focus on those first. And when that feels like you have some more of an understanding or have kind of met those parts of yourself, then that's, so to speak, kind of stabilized. And then you step into more of the role of, once you've fulfilled kind of all the basic life stuff, all the mundane, then there's the luxury, so to speak, of stepping more into your soul purpose of what's conscious for you. And that's can start to become more alive.
So
we're trying to do it the other way around.
For James and me, that means we party first and we study later.
Just because I give that answer doesn't mean I actually take my own advice, but yeah. What is it, party first?
The 3 line.
Oh, exploring first. I suppose it's like, so it's almost like satisfying the life purpose first, of like, it depending on, in the 6th line especially, like there could be some resistance to wanting to go on the adventure or acquire new skills or something early on, but that kind of needs to be done in order to then be, I'm not going to give the example very well, but on the roof, like all the things you need to acquire and the skills you need to gain and knowledge and wisdom and everything in order to then be on the roof appropriately, something, I don't know. That's where it all comes down to, however you navigate, but that's the idea. Focus on the 2nd number first, and then you step into the wisdom of the 1st number.
Because the conscious, the 1st number is more like the conscious gates as well. It's like something that we're more aware of. And like James says so nicely, soul and all that stuff, right? That's why it's called conscious. And the red stuff is oftentimes how it ends up happening in life more, right? But that's also sometimes that we're not always so aware of, something that some of the energies or archetypal energies that happen a little more automatically. They just play out that way. It's oftentimes, I think Ra said the red side is all more like genetic and ancestral stuff that we just bring. So it's like a lot of ways to see these things. And I don't like any absolute answers anyways. These are all tools, remember, that are meant to help you understand yourself better, but they're not to override any truth or knowing that you have about yourself. They're supposed to add on to them.
Yeah.
You somewhat agree, James? It sounds like.
No, I agree.
Anyway, Michelle, this seems to have been helpful for Michelle, so she also says awesome things.
Sure.
All right, I feel like this was amazing. I learned so much myself. I always learn so much from you, James. You're a deep source of wisdom and knowledge, and I appreciate you so much.
The feeling is mutual. I appreciate you too. Yeah, I was looking forward to this topic because it's only 6 numbers, so it's a good framework to start from. It's like, how much can you find out from 6 different numbers?
A lot.
There's a lot. So I could probably talk on this topic forever. So could do it sometime.
If you want to talk to James about this more, just message him.
Yeah.
He's also a Taurus and likes to sometimes do nothing.
My favorite thing.
I'm a Gemini. I like to talk all day long. And unless I'm not, because I'm resting. We all have these big conundrums, but the purpose is to have more fun with life, to understand yourself better, and to heal yourself more, to decondition yourself more of the things that aren't you, so that you can just have fun with life, living your purpose, being your true self, being authentic, and just enjoying this ride that we're on. That's why.
Well said. Yep.
That's why we bring this to you, basically. So thanks for being here. Do you have any last words of wisdom, James Wilson?
No, I said everything I wanted to say.
It's awesome. Ruby says, thank you both. It has been really enlightening. Enjoy the rest of your holiday and catch up soon. It sounds good. Thank you for everyone who's been here and commented and partaken. And we appreciate you very much as well.
Bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day and happy Memorial Day.
Happy Memorial Day. Bye.
Bye.